What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of In the Heyday. I'm your host, Oliver Hayes, and it is emergency podcast time, the first emergency pod since starting In the Heyday, and that's because of the Buffs went out and got their third edition of the offseason with 19-year-old 7'1" big man Leonardo Van Elswyk from Milan, Italy. Most databases have him weighing in at 220 pounds, but that will be confirmed once he gets to campus. But either way, he spent this past season with Olimpia Milano, averaging 8.5 points, 7.4 rebounds per game, shooting 48.3% from the field. So, not the crazy stats in the world, but either way, at 7'1", he brings some much needed height and depth to the Buffs and the center position. The Buffs at the moment, before his signing, only had a fringe, forward center in Bangat Dak, 6'11", but only 185 pounds, and he's dealing with an injury. So, that brought some added worry to the worries about the lack of just players in the front court. But beyond Bangat Dak, the Buffs only had 6-year Elijah Malone, who's still trying to make that transition from the NAIA level after getting granted a second year, and he's trying to utilize that second year to the best that he can. You can read my story on that if you want to get a better idea on that. He's trying to better his jump shot and get slimmer and things. But then Fawaz Tagovailoa, he's a lot more like the prototypical Big 12 big man. He's super athletic, is a high motor, 6'11", 245 pounds, but he's an incoming freshman and is still learning a lot. And like Tad likes to say, he's drinking water through a fire hose with Bangat's injury and having a battle with Elijah Malone and the other guys in practice. So signing Van Elswyk is a much needed addition, very helpful for the Buffs. And even though there's not too much of a recruiting profile on him being from Italy and being overseas. From the little I did see, some were saying that he does look a little bit more like a redshirt project. I know he's not the heaviest. He's not the most athletic in the world. So there are probably some worries due to that. But either way, before I get too much further into what I think he can bring to the Buffs, I'll let Tad do some talking and share a little blurb of what he shared when he announced Leonardo Van Elswyk is joining the team yesterday on Mark Johnson's podcast, Buffs Insider. This kind of went under the radar. I'm not sure how many people catch this episode, catch Buffs Insider on a daily basis. I'm sure the football is way, way, way more popular. But finally, someone realized that Tad announced a commit, and it got to the journalists and got to me. So even though Van Elswyk has been on our radar with an official visit that he announced earlier this month, we finally got the commitment now, and here's what Tad had to say about it.
But our front line needs some depth. There's no doubt about that. We just signed a kid from who's been playing in Milan, Italy. He's originally from Toronto, Canada, 7'1" kid, Leonardo Van Elswyk, who's a very good prospect. Little thin for 7'1", but really skilled. So he's a guy we think can come in and help us play right away, but we don't know. The Big 12, as you know, is a rugged conference. So sometimes the big guys, it takes them a little bit longer, but so we signed him, which is going to help, and we may or may not sign one more.
A great coach once said, "You can teach a lot of things, but you can't teach 7'1".
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So yeah, I think three things stand out from that. The first thing is he said that Van Elswyk is thin, and like I said, the databases have him coming in at 220 pounds. The thing that I think is noticeable is the fact that he doesn't seem to be getting pushed around too much. He's not the 185 pounds that Bangat is, but he doesn't have the athleticism that Bangat does. So he has to dominate the game, or not dominate the game, make an impact on the game in a much different way. And he brings a skill set that is quite a bit different than the other big men on the roster. He likes to post up. He's not putting the ball on the ground like Bangat is. And his post moves are something solid. He's not pushing inside and trying to dominate like Elijah is, and he's not trying to play above the rim. He's looking for post hooks. He's looking for floaters. He's looking for turnaround fadeaways. He's looking to face up, swish a jumper, bank a jumper off the glass. He's looking to float out to the 3-point line, knock down a 3-pointer. And in some of this tape, you can see it later on. Well, hopefully the pod goes long enough to see some of it, but you can see him moving around the 3-point line, the perimeter pretty well, looking more like a spot-up shooter than a big man trying to knock down a three because the opposing defender isn't respecting him. And so I think he brings a very interesting fold to the 5-man position next year, even though he is on the thinner side, less athletic side, just because he is skilled, like Tad said, And I think at least on the offensive side of things, he will be a very fun, interesting player to watch. And seeing how his passing skills are will be, I think, the next step to his offensive game based on what I've seen. But then, of course, offensively and defensively, that would be the big thing next year, because the Buffs struggled with that all of last year, and with this, the limited backcourt that I referenced earlier, with the difference in experience and things like that, and some of the weird builds, there is worries about whether this front court will be able to make an impact on the glass in the Big 12, and whether or not they'll be able to defend opposing centers. And while I don't think Van Elswyk will have the easiest time, based on the tape, I think he'll struggle a little bit. I think the fact that he adds another player to the front court, and just adds another look for the Buffs, will help remedy that, given who they have already. And if Tad does go out and use that 15th spot on another big man, then that could be another one who could potentially get minutes. So the Buffs, it'll be interesting to see what the rebounding defense looks like, but yeah, offensively, I think things could be really fun. And being 7'1", and even though on the lighter side he's not getting pushed around, being 7'1", I think Van Elswyk will at least be able to contest some shots and grab a few rebounds. And also with his weight, Tad did go on to say that Van Elswyk's dad, Peter, was also a college basketball player. Was a 6'9" foot forward. Played 2 years at South Carolina, and then 2 years at Stanford, and then he went and played in the EuroLeague, I'm pretty sure. So obviously why Leonardo ended up taking the path that he did, even though he originated in Ontario, like Tad said. But either way, the next thing that I thought stood out was the fact that Tad thinks that Van Elswyk has overall on next year's team, and watching the film, I could definitely see why he thinks that. I think the spacing that he brings to next year's team, with the emphasis that he could bring to next year's team, with the emphasis that the coaching staff has had on guys being able to space the floor, is really big, is really crucial. I think that he is skilled, like Tad said. But when I was looking up his recruiting profiles and things like that, there was not much on him. I'm not sure, how Italian recruiting ranking systems work necessarily. I'll have to get familiar, because European recruiting is much more prevalent, nowadays, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But either way, from the little things I did see, some databases were thinking that Van Elswyk was going to be more of a redshirt piece, and while that isn't 100, that isn't out of the equation, there's still quite a bit of time before the season starts. The fact that Van Elswyk is looking at potential, real potential minutes in his freshman year, in the coaching staff, may expect that, expects that of him, from what it sounds like, is a good sign, especially from, just given based off of what they think of him. But then the last thing that stood out to me is the fact that Tad's, talked about that last roster spot, and I think he said a little bit earlier in the pod that he was, he said he may or may not use it. He wasn't sure, but I think it's more likely that the Buffs will go out and use it. And I think, from if you were on the board, Adam said that it is likely that the Buffs are looking at another overseas big man. So it could that would be fun, because like I just said, that could add another fold to the 5-man position. But either way, that would add some more depth, and with the European recruiting, it will only become more prevalent, because all these European players know that there's more money in college basketball than whatever they're playing, or whatever they were playing, with these different club teams and things like that. So yeah, the Buffs, they've had some international recruits, kind of with some interesting stories. I know. Tristan Silva, he's from Germany, and Sebastian Rancic, I know, he's Slovenian. I don't know. I'm on the podcast and I'm getting confused. But either way, I know he's not necessarily an international guy. And now we got an ad, perfect. But Felix Caceres, Taco Fawaz Taco Afayola, he's been in America the past few years, but he came from Africa. So, some international guys on the roster, and it will definitely go in the international route, I think, will be a lot more prevalent for the Buffs, as it is for a lot of college basketball teams. But yeah, I think that for the most part, that's all I have on Leonardo at the moment. I think the only other thing I can add with that is that, Tad wasn't sure of when Van Elswyk will join the team. I guess it's up to whether or not he makes the U20 national team for Italy or not. If he doesn't, he'll join the Buffs on July 7th. But if he does, he won't be able to join the team until after the Australia trip. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if he makes the team, that's good. He's obviously good. He can play on the national team. But then he would miss the Australia trip where he could try and develop, work with the team, build the connectivity, things like that. But then, on the flip side, if he doesn't make the national team, what does that say about his game? But then, he gets that experience. So, we'll have to see if he is with the team in the next few weeks and is able to go down to Australia. If he does have that chance, I think that will be huge for him, because huge for him and the team, because they will be without Bangat due to Bangat's knee injury. But like I said, we'll have to see. And if he's playing for the national team, I know he played for the Italy's U16 national team where they came 6th. But if he makes that team, that means he's solid to some extent. He's going to experience playing elsewhere at least against some decent competition. So definitely still a lot of question marks. There's not too much to find on the guy. If you're following the team as close as I hope you have been, just for my sake to consume my stuff, then you probably are one of the guys that are, or girls that are looking up recruiting profiles, or looking up highlight tapes, that are looking up all they can to try and find out about who will be joining the Buffs next year. And like I said earlier, after we found out Van Elswyk was on a visit, I know everybody started doing all the things that they could to try and find out more about who this kid is, if he did sign. And so yeah, I don't think there's too much more to add. Episode 4 will be releasing soon. That was supposed to be episode 4. It was supposed to be episode 3, but of course, Emergency Pod move things around. But not too many mailbag questions for you guys. So yeah, I've none to answer this episode, but I will get from the few that I did get. I will answer those in the next episode, and potentially episode 5, depending on what I'll talk about. But plan to attack more of the position groups, and where I think guys could fit into the rotation. Plan to attack that in the next few episodes, but also plan to look across the general Big 12 and how the Buffs compare to other teams. I know that we all know that a lot of Big 12 programs are looking quite new. In some cases, if you're Baylor, I think UCF is in this boat. Arizona State's in this boat. I'm pretty sure Utah. They have double-digit recruits coming in, I'm pretty sure. So basically whole new rosters across the Big 12. But either way, I want to do the best I can to make sure that I'm putting the Buffs in the correct context. And when I'm discussing them, I'm discussing them in an objective light, and putting them up, and making sure that everyone understands where they stand in the Big 12. When discussing their recruiting classes, incoming freshmen, offseason additions, things like that, the returners. But either way, that's all stuff for the next episodes. If you do have questions that you think of and didn't put on my social media posts or on the board, please drop them in the comments. But if not, the Buffs, picked up Leonardo Van Elswyk, the 14th man on the roster, 6th man of the incoming freshman class. So they have another roster spot that they could use, will likely be used on an overseas big man if it is used, and the Buffs do end up reaching that 15-man roster limit. But yeah, I think that's all for this podcast. So I appreciate you guys listening to another episode of In the Heyday. I'm your host, Oliver Hayes, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.